What did Diddy do? Well, he controlled people. And how can you avoid people controlling you? Because a lot of people think, I would never do that. I would never put myself in the position that people found themselves in relationship to Diddy. And so, what is mind control? You might have heard the term before and thought, that's not even real. People can't control my mind. Well, it is. And it's a really far more common than you think it is. It's not a sci-fi thing. We're talking about just subtle ways that people try to manipulate your thoughts, emotions, and actions. I'm going to tell you a story that helps to show how easy it is for people to fall into this. So this is a true story about a guy named Steve. And when he was in college, he was 19 years old, and he had just broken up with his girlfriend and he was really depressed, and he was sitting on a park bench somewhere, and three beautiful women came up to him and said, we can tell you're really depressed and we have the answer. And they ended up taking him to a church, which I'm not going to name, but is a very famous church that is known for mind control. So he spent over 2 years living in a communal house. He slept less than 4 hours a night. A lot of mind control deprives you of things like enough food, protein, deprives you of your money. He was manipulated financially. Eventually, he surrendered all of his bank account over to this church. He quit college and he devoted himself entirely to this church. At one point, he thought that the president at the time, which was President Nixon, was this archangel that was protecting the church. He was completely devoted to the leader of this church. He said, I would have even died for him. There are a lot of organizations that try to get you to believe in them to that level. Why do they do it? Because they want to manipulate you. They want you as a body and mind to do their bidding. So, and you can think of, I'm sure, a lot of modern day things that are happening today where that kind of manipulation is happening. All right, so what happened to Stephen? After 2 days of working straight without any sleep, he got in a car accident, and that landed him in the hospital. And his parents then hired people to do what they called at the time deprogramming. Maybe they still call it that, which means that they worked to undo the mental conditioning that he'd been put through. And it took about 5 days of him going through this kind of intensive rethinking and reflection on what had become of his life that he realized that he had been manipulated and controlled by this church. Unfortunately, he felt a lot of guilt and shame, which is why, if you know anyone who's being manipulated like this, the worst thing you can do is to laugh at them or tell them you're dumb or why'd you fall for this. You have to approach them with questions and compassion and let them find the way. The only way, their brain got them into it, and their brain needs to pull themselves out of it. You can help by asking questions, by being sympathetic and being non-judgmental. So now this guy, Stephen, is known as Dr. Stephen Hassan, and he's a researcher and expert in cult and mind control. So I'm going to give you the steps that he talks about in order to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of mind control. They'll use these tactics to control how you think, who you trust, and really even about how you feel about yourself. So there's something called the influence continuum, and I'm going to put that up here, that Dr. Hassan created to kind of help see how we all exist on this influence continuum because we're influenced by other people. It's how we are. We're human beings, are social beings. So this influence continuum shows on one side total freedom, and the other side is total control. And most people live somewhere in the middle. They make their own choices, but they're also influenced by their surroundings, like friends and social media and ads. But when someone tries to slide you over to the control side, that's when you need to watch out. So what are the red flags that someone is trying to control you? Someone or some organization or some political movement or whatever it might be is trying to control your thinking. So there are some red flags. The first one is they cut you off from other perspectives. So they'll say things like, don't listen to anyone else. They don't understand you. That's a major red flag. Healthy people encourage you to think for yourself and listen to different viewpoints. So anyone who's trying to cut you off from, reading about a different religion or knowing more about a different political perspective or viewpoints outside of our typical economic viewpoints, that is a way to try to control you. So that's a red flag. Number two, they use emotional manipulation. If you've ever heard someone say something like, if you don't do this, you're going to let everyone down. Remember, your feelings are yours, and nobody should be able to use, or you shouldn't allow other people to use those feelings against you. So you can have feelings of, yes, I'm going to let someone down if I leave this church, for example. But if someone is guilting you and saying the only reason you need to stay in that organization is because you're going to let everybody down, that's a sign they're trying to manipulate you emotionally. Number three red flag is they'll try to demand blind loyalty. So anyone who expects you to trust them 100% without questioning anything is really not looking out for your best interests. Real relationships, whether they're friends or mentors or influencers, should encourage you to ask questions and to have doubts. So how do you stay in control? How do you prevent something like a P. Diddy situation where you have a great desire to be part of something like the music industry that's really hard to get into, and you say, maybe I do have to compromise, or I have to give up something in order to be part of that world, which is what Diddy actually took advantage of. So you think about those red flags and think about what are the things that he did in order to keep people from having their own opinions, leaving when they wanted to. So he is more than mind control. He actually used physical control through, spiking things with, drugs, things like that. So there's more to it. Also compromising, putting people in compromising positions, and then using their emotions, saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to show people your videotape, for example. Always ask yourself, why is this person talking to me? Or why am I being told this specific thing? If someone doesn't like you asking questions, that's a sign that they're hiding something. Stay connected to your people, your friends, your family, online communities with different perspectives. Staying connected helps keep your perspective, wide and balanced. And then you need to be able to do that balancing in your mind. I think the most important thing that could have helped the situation with Diddy is by people really establishing their values. When you know what you stand for, it's a lot harder for someone to sway you into thinking or doing something that doesn't feel right. And this is why this happens so much to young people, because young people don't have established values yet. Those are things that over time you start to develop when you have things that happen to you and you say, well, I don't ever want that to happen again. And my value is I'm never going to let someone manipulate me, or I'm not going to be lied to, or I'm not going to lie to other people, or whatever it is. So you have to have values like, there are certain things I won't compromise, even though I really want to be in the music business and I want people to see and hear what I have to give. I will not do X, Y, and Z, and really establish that very strongly in yourself. Otherwise, you can so easily be manipulated when you have a great desire to do something and you're in an area where there's a lot of gatekeeping. In other words, a lot of people keeping you out of that. You're the boss of your brain. You are the boss of your brain. Don't let anyone make you feel small, scared, or like you can't think for yourself. Stay curious, stay connected, and keep being the amazing independent thinker that you are. And I know you are because you continue to watch this to the end, that you are aware that you have a mind that needs to be thinking and aware, open to the fact that these things happen in this world and you don't have to be a victim. And that's really what Bounce Back Generation is all about, keeping you from being a victim and helping you to find mental health through your strength. You do not need to be a victim, period. End of story. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to hear if anyone has noticed red flags in your own life and what you did when you saw those red flags come up. All right. Thank you, friends.